I have a confession to make. I love sequels. Some of my favorite movies of all time are sequels, and I hope Hollywood continues to make more sequels to movies I love. Look, I know there are a ton of terrible sequels out there, and there's not enough original ideas in movies anymore, but let me explain. Back in the summer of 2014, Marvel released Guardians of the Galaxy, and it surprised everyone by being arguably one of the best superhero movies of the modern era. And it's definitely one of my personal favorites. It's a near perfect blend of sci-fi action, hilarious comedy, and memorable characters with an amazing soundtrack thrown in for good measure. So when Marvel quickly announced they were planning a sequel, I was excited to revisit the characters and universe so fully realized in the original, but on the other hand, I've been let down by sequels in the past. Luckily, for my money, Guardians Volume 2 more than lives up to its promise and potential. And it's not just a worthy sequel, it's an excellent movie all its own. So how does it accomplish this? How do you make a great sequel? I think the core of what makes a great sequel comes down to three essential elements. 1, a great sequel keeps the spirit of the original without repeating the same plot. 2, it expands the established universe while taking the characters forward. And 3, a great sequel must stand alone as a self-contained story. Guardians Volume 2 does an excellent job writing the fine line between honoring the spirit of the original, while at the same time taking the story in a completely new direction. In Volume 2, we still get the same ragtag group of space outlaws adventuring across the galaxy together to an incredible retro soundtrack, but the story feels completely fresh and introduces new characters and ideas that fit right in with the established universe. The story takes several unexpected twists and turns and builds on Volume 1 without repeating it. Compare this with something like The Hangover 2, which is essentially a beat-for-beat remake of the original, where we just get all the same jokes in a slightly different wrapper. You could argue that it keeps the spirit of the original, but the whole thing ends up feeling pretty pointless. A key element of a great sequel is bringing back the core concepts and characters that people loved in the original, but don't just leave it there. Which brings me to my next point. A great sequel expands the universe of the original and takes the characters on a new journey that fleshes them out even more. In Volume 2, we're not only taken to new exciting worlds beyond Volume 1, but almost every main character has a new and unique arc that tells us more about them and connects us to them on a deeper level. At its center, Volume 2 is about family and what it means to be a family, whether it's by blood or not. We explore Peter's relationship with his biological father and surrogate father, Gamora and Nebula's bond and rivalry as adopted sisters, and Drax's past pain from the loss of his wife and child. We also see how the Guardians have bonded together to create a new family all their own.
You are not friends.
You're right. We're family.
I don't have friends. I got family.
So yes, Volume 2 has all the bigger and better action sequences you want and expect from a superhero movie sequel, but it also takes time to tell you something new about these characters. The third thing great sequels do is stand alone as a good story, even without the original. While it's great when a sequel builds on and even directly references the original, it adds another layer of depth to the film, I would argue that almost all great sequels can be watched without any knowledge of the first film and still be enjoyed and recognized as a solid standalone work. There are plenty of sequels that keep the spirit of the original and even go deeper with the characters, but ultimately don't live up to their potential because of poor execution and a weak story. I recently watched Zoolander 2 for some reason. I'm not sure why I did, but I did. Anyway, that's a perfect example of a movie that relies too heavily on the original. Most of the jokes depend on you having a deep love and knowledge of the first Zoolander movie, and the whole thing falls flat and feels like a limp attempt at conjuring up some magical nostalgia factor that maybe wasn't really there to begin with.
You guys suck. Both of you guys suck. You look great, man.
Thanks.
I think it can be good to make reference to the original at times, and I think most great sequels are definitely enhanced by having knowledge of the first film, but they don't rely on it as a crutch for lazy storytelling. Ultimately, the keys to making a great sequel are the same as any other movie. Tell a compelling story with fully realized characters in an entertaining way. There's a lot of people who like to complain about the endless parade of sequels, remakes, and reboots, and the general lack of originality and risk-taking in modern movies. And I think they definitely have a point. I'm pretty tired of all the remakes and reboots, and I love watching a purely original new idea, But I also believe there can be something special and unique about a sequel. When so much time and care has been put into creating unique characters in an expansive universe, it feels like a waste to only explore that for one film. Now obviously, many movies tell a complete and self-contained story and leave no reason for a sequel. But for certain movies, the prospect of revisiting characters I know and love and going on a new adventure with them keeps me optimistic about the future of Hollywood and their insistence on creating sequel after sequel. And as long as Marvel keeps telling new and captivating stories with this intergalactic crew of misfits, I'll be the first in line for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 13. Hey everybody, Jonathan here, one half of Burger Fiction. Thank you so much for watching this video. What do you guys think makes a great sequel? And what's a movie that you love that you think deserves a second chapter? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, I think you'll also really like the video that I've got linked right here. So definitely check that out. And we'll see you next time.